The stars looked different through the viewing window of the Endeavour. Ambassador Jake Morrison stood with his hands behind his back, watching the massive structure grow larger as their ship approached. The Galactic Council station was enormous, bigger than any human-made structure. It looked like a giant wheel floating in space, with lights blinking along its surface like a small city. "We're receiving docking instructions," Lieutenant Ryan Torres said from his position near the communications console. He was a tall man with short dark hair, and his military background showed in the way he stood straight and alert. "They're assigning us to Base 7, Jake nodded. He was in his mid-40s with gray starting to show at his temples. Years of military service had given him a calm presence, but inside, he felt the weight of what they were about to do. Humanity had been traveling through space for only 15 years. Now they were meeting with species that had been doing this for thousands of years. "How are you feeling, Ambassador?" Dr. Lisa Chen asked as she walked over to join him at the window. She was a xenobiologist, which meant she studied alien life forms. Her job was to help the team understand the different species they would meet. She carried a digital tablet that held information about every known alien race. "Nervous," Jake admitted. There was no point in lying to his team. "We're about to walk into a room full of beings who think they know everything about how the galaxy works. And we're the new kids." Megan Blake laughed softly. She was their cultural liaison, someone who studied how different societies worked and communicated. "That's exactly why we might surprise them," she said. "They expect us to act a certain way. What if we don't?" The Endeavour docked smoothly, and the team gathered their belongings. They had spent months preparing for this moment. Earth's government had chosen them carefully. Jake because he could think quickly and didn't follow rules just because they existed. Lisa because she understood alien biology and psychology. Ryan because he could keep them safe. Megan because she could read people, even when those people had tentacles or scales instead of skin. The airlock opened with a hiss. On the other side stood 3 figures. The first was tall and thin, almost like a stretched-out human made of silver light. The second was short and round, covered in thick fur that changed colors as it moved. The third was something Jake couldn't quite describe, like looking at a creature that existed in more dimensions than his eyes could see. "Welcome to the Galactic Council Station," the silver being said. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. "I am Keeper Velzine, Arbiter of First Contact. These are my assistants. Please follow us." They walked through corridors that curved in ways that made Jake's head hurt. The station was built for dozens of different species, so some hallways had water flowing through them. Others had different gravity, and some glowed with light that human eyes could barely see. They passed aliens of every shape and size. Some walked on legs, others floated, and a few seemed to phase in and out of sight. Finally, they reached a large chamber. It was circular, with seats rising up along the walls like an amphitheater. Hundreds of aliens sat in those seats, representing dozens of different species. At the center of the room was a platform with a table and chairs designed for humans. "This is the Grand Chamber," Velsina explained. "Here the Council conducts all official business. Your trial will take place here, witnessed by all member species." "Trial?" Jake asked, though he had been briefed about this. "I thought we were here for negotiations." "The trials of ascension," Velsina said. "Every species that wishes to join the Council must prove they can negotiate effectively and follow our protocols. You will face 3 challenges. Complete them successfully and humanity will be welcomed as a junior member." The team took their seats at the table. Jake looked around at all the watching aliens. Some seemed curious, others bored, and a few looked almost amused, like they were about to watch a show they had seen many times before. "Your first challenge begins now," Velsini announced. "You will negotiate with the Krell Empire for resource rights in their territory." From a side entrance, 3 massive figures entered. They looked like enormous beetles, each one the size of a small vehicle. Their shells were deep purple and black, polished to a shine. Their eyes were multifaceted, reflecting light in rainbow patterns. The middle one wore decorations that suggested high rank. "I am High Merchant Zaxthor," the central Krell said. His voice was deep and grinding like rocks moving against each other. "The Krell Empire controls 17 star systems rich in minerals that humanity requires. We are here to discuss terms." Jake stood and nodded respectfully. "Thank you for meeting with us. We hope to find an agreement that benefits both our peoples." Zaxthor made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your species needs vanadium crystals and rare earth compounds. Without them, your colonies will fail. You need us. We do not need you. Lisa leaned close to Jake and whispered, "He's establishing dominance. Standard Krell negotiation tactic. They believe showing strength from the start gives them the advantage." "So what do we do?" Jake whispered back. "Usually species try to appear strong too," Megan added quietly. "But that's playing their game." Jake thought for a moment, then addressed Zaxthor again. "You're right. We do need those resources. What would the Krell Empire want in exchange?" The Krell merchant seemed pleased by this direct approach. He activated a holographic display that showed star charts and numbers. "We have calculated the value of your needs. In exchange for access to 5% of one minor asteroid field in our territory, we require the following. Complete agricultural output from 3 of your colony worlds for 50 standard years. Exclusive manufacturing rights to all current and future human technology, and a permanent Krell oversight station in your home system." The numbers appeared in front of Jake. He felt his stomach sink. These terms were absurd. They were essentially asking humanity to become servants to the Krell Empire. They would give up food, technology, and independence for access to a tiny fraction of resources in Krell space. Ryan leaned forward. "Sir, those terms are—" "I can see what they are," Jake said calmly. He looked at the Krell. "These terms seem quite demanding." "They are fair," Zaxthor stated. "Other species have accepted similar arrangements. This is how the galaxy works, human. The strong have resources. The weak need resources. The weak must pay." Jake glanced up at the watching aliens in the chamber. Many were nodding or making gestures of agreement. This wasn't just a negotiation with the Krell. This was a test from the Council. They wanted to see if humanity would accept humiliation to gain membership. "I need to confer with my team," Jake said. "May we have a recess?" Velsine's form shimmered. "This is unusual. Negotiations typically proceed without pause." "Nevertheless, I'm requesting one," Jake said firmly, "unless the Council forbids member species from consulting with their own people." There was silence in the chamber. Then Velsina spoke. "Very well. You have 1 standard hour." The human team was led to a small room off the main chamber. As soon as the door closed, Ryan spoke. "Those terms are insane. We can't agree to that." "But if we refuse, we fail the trial," Lisa said. She was looking at her tablet, scanning through data. "I've been researching. Every species that joined the Council in the last 200 years accepted terrible first deals. It's tradition. The newer species get exploited by the older ones until they work their way up the hierarchy." Megan was pacing. "I've been watching the Council members. They think this is entertainment. They've seen this exact scenario play out dozens of times. The newcomers always fold. They always accept bad terms because they're afraid of being left out." Jake sat down and thought. His mind went back to his military days, to situations where following standard procedure meant losing. Sometimes you had to change the game entirely. "What if we don't play?" he said quietly. The others looked at him. "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. "What if we refuse to accept that these are our only options?" Jake stood up and looked at his team. "The Council invited us. We didn't beg to join. They need new members to keep their system running. And the Krell, they're merchants. They care about profit, not tradition." "You want to walk away?" Ryan asked. "I want to change the conversation," Jake said. A smile slowly spread across his face. "I want to show them what humans do when someone tells us we have to follow rules we never agreed to." "They might kick us out entirely," Lisa warned. "Maybe," Jake agreed. "But I'd rather go home with our dignity than stay here as servants. Besides, I don't think the Krell want servants. I think they want profit. And I think we can offer them something better than what they're asking for." Megan was smiling now too. "You have a plan?" "I have the beginning of one," Jake said. "And we're going to need all of you to make it work. Lisa, I need you to find every piece of data you can about successful partnerships between species. Not the Council's hierarchical nonsense, real partnerships. Megan, I need you to read the room when we go back. Tell me who's interested and who's scared. Ryan, keep monitoring our communications. I have a feeling the Council is watching everything we do." The hour passed quickly. When they returned to the Grand Chamber, Jake felt calm. He had spent his whole career dealing with situations. The Grand Chamber had never been so quiet. Hundreds of alien species sat in stunned silence, watching the human ambassador stand before the Krell merchant. No one had ever challenged Council protocols like this. No one had ever walked away from a negotiation. High Merchant Zaxthor tilted his massive head. His multifaceted eyes reflected the lights of the chamber in strange patterns. You challenge me, human? I'm offering you a choice, Jake said, keeping his voice steady. Continue with these council-approved terms that make us servants, or meet with us as equals and find something better for both our people. The Krell's shell shifted, a sign that Lisa recognized from her research as deep thought. Zaxthor was actually considering it, but before he could respond, Keeper Velsine's form flashed bright and sharp. This negotiation must follow council protocols, the Arbiter declared. High Merchant Zaxthor, you are required to conduct this negotiation within council guidelines. Required? Zaxthor's voice rumbled through the chamber like distant thunder. The Krell Empire is a sovereign power. We negotiate where we choose with whom we choose. Velsine's silver form rippled with what might have been frustration. The council has procedures. 3 centuries of tradition are not my concern, Zaxthor interrupted. He looked at Jake with his strange, multifaceted eyes. I am intrigued by your boldness, human. However, before I consider your proposal, I wish to see what you would offer. The council expects me to complete this negotiation. Very well. Make your counteroffer here and now. Show me you are more than brave words. Jake glanced at his team. Lisa gave a slight nod. They had prepared for this possibility during their recess. Megan was watching the crowd and she touched her ear, signaling that many aliens were leaning forward with interest. Here's what humanity offers, Jake began. Instead of us paying you for limited access, we propose a joint venture. We combine our resources. Humans bring innovation, adaptability, and fresh perspectives. The Krell bring experience, existing infrastructure, and knowledge of the territory. We mine together. We profit together, 50-50 split on everything. The chamber erupted again. Aliens began talking loudly, gesturing, making noises of shock. Jake heard someone translate his words in a language that sounded like grinding metal. Others were translating into whistles, clicks, and sounds he couldn't even identify. Zaxthor was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke to one of the other Krell beside him in their own language. The conversation went back and forth for several minutes while the chamber buzzed with noise. Finally, Zaxthor addressed Jake again. Explain this joint venture concept. The Krell own the resources. Why would we share equally with those who own nothing? Lisa stepped forward. Jake nodded to her, giving permission to speak. Because you would make more profit, she said simply. She activated her tablet and projected data into the air above their table. Numbers and charts appeared, showing economic models. Look at these figures. They compare exploitative arrangements versus partnership arrangements across different industries and species. Partnerships consistently produce 30 to 40% more wealth than hierarchical systems. How? Zaxthor demanded. Because partners innovate together, Lisa explained. When one side is a servant, they only do what they're told. They have no reason to think of better ways, but partners want the venture to succeed because they benefit equally. Humans would work harder, think smarter, and invest more if we're partners than if we're servants. Plus, our different perspectives would catch problems and opportunities that one species alone might miss. Jake added, and if this one venture succeeds, we could expand to other operations. More mines, more profit, more cooperation. Instead of squeezing everything you can from us once, you could have a long-term ally that makes you wealthy for generations. Zaxthor made a grinding sound, considering. Around the chamber, Jake noticed something interesting. Some of the aliens were nodding or making gestures of agreement, but others, particularly the ones sitting in the highest, most ornate seats, looked angry or afraid. This is most irregular, Velsine said. The Arbiter's form was flickering rapidly, a sign of agitation that Lisa had briefed them about. The council must maintain order and tradition. Allowing such unprecedented arrangements would set a dangerous precedent. Dangerous to whom? Megan spoke up. She had been quiet until now, but Jake recognized the tone in her voice. She had spotted something important. Forgive me, Keeper Velsine, but who exactly is endangered by fair partnerships? The Arbiter didn't answer. The silence itself was an answer. We should take another recess, Velsine said quickly. This matter requires careful deliberation by the full council. No, Zaxthor said firmly. The human ambassador asked for my decision. I will give it now. The chamber went silent again. Every being present seemed to hold their breath or whatever equivalent they used. I accept, Zaxthor declared. The Krell Empire will enter into a joint mining venture with humanity. Equal partnership. Equal profit. We will draft formal terms outside of council oversight, as the human suggested. The noise that followed was deafening. Some aliens were cheering or making sounds of approval. Others were shouting what had to be objections. A few species representatives stood and left the chamber quickly. Felsine's form was flashing like a strobe light. This negotiation is not concluded properly, the arbiter insisted. The council must review and approve. The council invited humanity to negotiate for membership, Jake said, his voice cutting through the noise. You didn't say we had to negotiate the way you wanted. You didn't say we had to accept exploitation to prove ourselves worthy. And unless I'm mistaken, the Krell Empire is a council member in good standing. They can make agreements with whomever they choose. This is true, Zaxthor confirmed. The council cannot forbid us from making trade agreements. Velsine seemed to struggle for a response. Finally, the arbiter said, "This session is concluded. The council will reconvene tomorrow to discuss these developments." As the chamber began to empty, something unexpected happened. An alien approached the human team's table. It looked like a seal made of blue water, moving across the floor in a wave-like motion. Its voice sounded like water flowing over stones. "Ambassador Morrison," the creature said. "I am Delegate Corrin of the Thalen Collective. My people joined the Council 43 standard years ago. We accepted terms similar to what the Krell first offered you. We have regretted it ever since." Jake looked at the water being with interest. "What kind of terms?" "We provided mineral resources at below-market rates," Corrin explained, "in exchange for council membership and protection. But the protection never came when we needed it. And the resources we gave away have made others wealthy while our people struggle. I watched what you did today. I wonder, would humanity be willing to renegotiate agreements with other species as well, using this partnership model?" Before Jake could answer, Megan touched his arm. "Sir, we have 6 more species requesting private meetings with us. All of them joined the council in the last 50 years. Ryan was checking his security scanner. "And we're getting a lot of communication traffic directed at us. Some of it looks friendly, some of it doesn't." Jake looked at his team, then back at Delegate Corrin. "We're willing to talk with anyone who wants fair dealing." "That's what we came here for." The Thalen delegate made a rippling gesture that might have been appreciation. "Tomorrow there will be an emergency council session. The elder species will try to suppress what happened today. They will say you violated protocols. They will attempt to expel humanity or force you to accept the original terms. Be prepared." After Corrin left, the team gathered their things and headed back to the Endeavor. Once they were in the privacy of their ship, Ryan ran a full security sweep. "We're clean," he reported, "but I found something during the meeting. The council was monitoring our private recess. Every word we said in that room was recorded and analyzed. They were spying on us?" Lisa asked. "Not just us." Ryan pulled up data on his screen. "I hacked into their system while everyone was distracted. They monitor every species that comes here. Every private conversation. Every communication back to their home worlds. The council has detailed files on negotiation strategies, psychological profiles, everything." Megan looked thoughtful, so they knew exactly how to pressure each species that came before us. They knew what offers would make them fold. "This isn't tradition. It's a system." "It's more than that," Lisa said. She was looking at data on her own tablet. "I've been analyzing the trade agreements I could access. Look at this pattern. Junior species provide resources and technology at below-market rates. Senior species control trade routes and access to information. The new members never catch up. They're kept dependent." Jake stared at the evidence in front of them. "It's deliberate. The council isn't a democratic alliance. It's a hierarchy designed to keep power at the top, and they maintain it by exploiting every new species that joins." "What do we do?" Ryan asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment. He thought about Earth, about humanity's short time in space, about how his species had always hated being told they couldn't do something or had to accept the way things were just because that's how they'd always been. "We came here thinking we needed the council," he said finally. "But—" Morning came quickly aboard the Endeavor. Jake hadn't slept much. He kept thinking about what they were about to do, about all the ways it could go wrong. But every time doubt crept in, he thought about those files Ryan had found. The council had been exploiting new species for centuries. Someone had to stand up to them. The team gathered in the conference room for breakfast. None of them looked like they had slept well either. "I've got updates," Ryan said, pulling up information on the wall screen. "Overnight, we received 43 meeting requests from different species. Most are junior council members. 5 are from species that aren't council members yet but are considering joining. They all want to know about the partnership model." 43, Megan repeated. "That's almost a third of the council." "The other 2/3 aren't happy," Ryan continued. "I intercepted some communications. The senior species held their own emergency meeting last night. They're planning to make an example of us today." Lisa was reading something on her tablet. "I've been studying council law all night. There's no actual rule that says we have to negotiate their way, but there are rules about maintaining order and respecting tradition. They'll use those to try to expel us. Let them try," Jake said. He was surprisingly calm. "If they expel us for refusing to be exploited, that tells every species in the galaxy exactly what the council really is. We win either way. Unless they do more than just expel us," Ryan said carefully. "Some of the communications I saw mentioned enforcement actions." Jake looked at his security chief. "You think they'd attack us?" "I think some of the senior species are scared," Ryan replied. "Scared people do stupid things." "Keep monitoring everything," Jake ordered. "If you see any sign of military movement, you tell me immediately. But I don't think they'll risk open conflict. Not yet. They want to maintain the illusion that they're the good guys." 2 hours later, they were back in the Grand Chamber. But something was different. The room was packed with even more aliens than yesterday. And the seating had changed. The junior species had moved closer to the center, closer to where the humans sat. The senior species, in their ornate seats at the highest levels, looked down at everyone else like judges. Keeper Velsine stood at the center of the chamber. The Arbiter's silver form was brighter than yesterday, almost painful to look at directly. "The council is now in session. We are here to address the violations committed by the human delegation yesterday." "Violations?" Jake stood up. "We were invited here to negotiate. That's what we did." "You violated council protocols," Velsine stated. "You withdrew from negotiation without permission. You arranged private agreements outside council oversight. You disrupted the proper order of proceedings." "Show me the law that says we can't do those things," Jake challenged. A new voice spoke up. It came from one of the highest seats where a massive creature sat. It looked like a cross between a spider and a tree with bark-like skin and multiple limbs. Its voice sounded like creaking wood. "I am Elder Thorn of the Vortanic Hegemony. I speak for the senior council members. Your actions may not violate specific laws, human, but they violate the spirit of our cooperation. The council exists because we maintain order. Without order, there is chaos. Without fairness, there is resentment," Jake countered. "You talk about order, but what you really mean is control. You want new species to accept bad terms so you can profit from their weakness." The chamber erupted in noise. Some aliens were agreeing, others objecting. Elder Thorn's bark-like skin darkened. "You know nothing of how this galaxy works, human. Your species has been in space for barely a moment. We have maintained peace for 3 centuries. Peace for whom?" Megan spoke up. She had been analyzing the council's structure all night. The senior species are wealthy and comfortable. But the junior species struggle. They provide resources and labor while you control trade and technology. You call it peace. They call it exploitation. Another senior species representative stood. This one was made of what looked like living crystal, refracting light in beautiful but cold patterns. The junior species are protected by the council. Without us, they would be vulnerable to raiders and hostile forces. Protected? Delegate Corrin, the Thalen representative, rose from their seat. Their water-like body rippled with emotion. "When the Drax pirates attacked our colonies 5 years ago, we begged for council assistance. You sent 3 patrol ships and told us to negotiate with our attackers. We lost 2 colonies and thousands of lives. That was a regrettable incident," the crystal being said dismissively. "It wasn't an incident," another voice called out. A furry creature with 6 legs stood up. "It was policy. The council doesn't protect junior members. It keeps them weak so they stay dependent." More voices joined in. Junior species throughout the chamber were standing, sharing their own stories of being exploited or abandoned. The senior species tried to shout them down, but there were too many voices now. Jake watched it all unfold. This was what he had hoped for. Once one person spoke up, others found their courage. The system worked because everyone stayed quiet. But silence was breaking. Velsine's form flashed brilliantly, a command for silence. "Order, we must have order." "Why?" Jake asked loudly. The chamber quieted to hear him. "So you can continue the same corrupt system? So new species can continue being exploited? You invited humanity here and we've seen the truth. The Galactic Council isn't a democracy. It's not even an alliance. It's a protection racket. How dare you?" Elder Thorn boomed. "I dare because someone has to," Jake replied. He pulled out a data chip and held it up. "This contains evidence that Ryan Torres gathered from Council computers. Detailed plans for keeping junior species dependent, economic models for extracting maximum resources, psychological profiles for manipulation. You don't maintain peace. You maintain power." The chamber exploded into chaos. Senior species were demanding Jake be arrested. Junior species were demanding to see the evidence. Keeper Velsine was flashing so brightly that some aliens had to shield their eyes. "That data was obtained illegally," Velsina declared. "Was it?" Ryan stood up. "Your security system left Council databases accessible to any species with proper credentials. We used the Krell access codes that Zaxthor gave us permission to use. If the data was secret, you should have protected it better." High Merchant Zaxthor rose from his seat. The massive Krell had been quiet until now. "I did indeed provide access codes to my human partners. If they discovered wrongdoing, that is the Council's failing, not theirs." "Partners," Elder Thorn spat the word. "You betray 3 centuries of tradition for these upstart humans?" "I serve Krell interests," Zaxthor replied. "The human partnership model will make the Krell Empire wealthier than your exploitative system ever did. Why should I support a system that limits our prosperity?" Lisa activated her tablet and sent data to every screen in the chamber. Numbers, charts, and economic projections filled the air. "This is a comparison," she explained. "The blue line shows projected growth for Council species under the current system. The red line shows projected growth under a partnership model. Over 20 years, every species benefits more from partnerships. Even the senior species would be wealthier if they stopped hoarding power." "Lies," the crystal being hissed. "Math," Lisa corrected. "I'm a scientist. These are facts, not opinions. You can verify every calculation." Jake stepped forward. "Here's what humanity proposes. We're not asking to join your council anymore. Instead, we're creating something new. We call it the Free Trade Concordat. Any species can join. The only rules are these: treat all members equally, no exploitation, share knowledge and resources fairly, and defend each other from real threats." "This is rebellion," Velsine declared. "This is choice," Jake corrected. "Species can choose to stay in the Council's hierarchy or they can choose fairness." "We're not forcing anyone. We're just offering an alternative." Delegate Corin's waterform shimmered. "The Thalen Collective wishes to hear more about this concordat, as does the Narine Republic," another alien said. "And the Yaleth Communion," said a third. Within minutes, a dozen species were expressing interest. The senior species watched in horror as their carefully maintained power structure began to crack. Elder Thorn's voice boomed across the chamber. "Any species that abandons the Council will lose all trade rights, all protection, all access to Council space." "You will be outcast, will we?" Jake asked. "Because I count 13 species here who want to join the Concordat. That's 13 markets you'll lose access to, 13 sets of resources you won't be able to exploit. How long before your economies feel that loss? A year, less? And it won't stop at 13, Megan added. Word will spread. Other species will see that there's an alternative. Some of the species that haven't joined the Council yet will choose us instead. How long before you're the minority?" The crystal being pointed at Jake with a limb of sharp light. "You are destroying galactic stability." "We're destroying your control," Jake replied. "There's a difference. Real stability comes from fairness, not fear. Real peace comes from cooperation, not coercion." Zaxthor spoke again. "The Krell Empire officially recognizes the Free Trade Concordat and will be its second member after humanity. We urge other species to consider this opportunity." The next 3 days were chaos. Jake and his team barely left the Endeavor as species after species came to meet with them. Some came openly, their representatives walking through the station corridors for everyone to see. Others came secretly, using maintenance tunnels and cargo bays to avoid being spotted by Council observers. "We're up to 23 species interested in the Concordat," Megan reported during a brief break between meetings. She looked exhausted but excited. 8 have already committed. The others want more details, but they're serious. Lisa was organizing data on multiple screens. I've been analyzing the economics. If even half of these species join us, the Council loses approximately 35% of its resource base and 40% of its manufacturing capacity. The senior species can't sustain their current lifestyle without junior members to exploit. What about military strength? Jake asked Ryan. The security chief pulled up tactical displays. That's more complicated. The senior species control most of the heavy warships, but ships need crew, supplies, and bases. Many junior species provide those things. If they leave, the senior species fleets become much less effective. An alert beeped on Ryan's console. We have another visitor. It's Keeper Velsine. Jake stood up. The Arbiter wants to meet with us? That's interesting. Should I be there? Ryan asked, his hand near his sidearm. No weapons, Jake said. If Velsine wanted us dead, there are easier ways. This is something else. The Arbiter arrived alone, which was unusual. Velsine's silver form seemed dimmer than before, less brilliant. Ambassador Morrison, thank you for agreeing to see me. I'm surprised you wanted to see us, Jake said. Last time we talked, you were trying to expel humanity from the station. Much has changed in 3 days, Velsine said. The Arbiter's voice sounded tired. I come to speak with you privately, not as Council Arbiter, but as someone who has served this institution for 70 years. Jake gestured to a chair designed for beings without solid bodies. Velsine settled into it, their form adapting to the space. I'm listening. You were right, Velsine said quietly. About the Council. About the exploitation. I have known for decades, but I told myself it was necessary. That some species needed to lead while others followed. That hierarchy was natural. What changed your mind? Lisa asked. I reviewed the data you released, Velsine replied. Not just the evidence of manipulation, but the economic projections Dr. Chen provided. I ran my own analysis. Your partnership model is superior in every measurable way. We have been holding the galaxy back, not uplifting it. Jake leaned forward. So what do you want from us? I want to help, Velsine said. The senior species are planning something. Elderthorn and the others are terrified. They see their power slipping away. They are discussing options that range from economic sanctions to military intervention. Military intervention? Ryan moved closer, alert now. It is being considered, Velsine confirmed. They would claim you are a threat to galactic stability. They would send ships to Earth, blockade your colonies, force you to submit. That would be war, Jake said flatly. It would be suicide for them, Lisa added. Even if they won militarily, every junior species would turn against them. They'd be ruling over ashes. I know, Velsine said. That is why I am here. I am trying to prevent catastrophe. If you would delay the formation of your concordat, give time for negotiation. No, Jake interrupted. Every day we delay is another day those species suffer under exploitation. We're moving forward, Velsine's form flickered. Then there will be conflict. Maybe, Jake acknowledged. But that's on them, not us. We're not threatening anyone. We're just offering a choice. If the senior species choose violence over adaptation, that's their decision. The Arbiter was quiet for a moment. Then Velsine stood. I understand. I cannot stop what is coming, but I will do what I can to minimize the damage. Ambassador Morrison, whatever happens next, know that not everyone in the Council supports the senior species response. Many of us see that change is necessary. After Velsine left, Ryan immediately started running security checks. I don't like this. It felt like a warning. It was a warning, Jake agreed. Velsine is telling us to be ready for trouble. Megan, contact all the species that have committed to the Concordat. Tell them to move their representatives off the Council station. If things go bad, I don't want them caught in the middle. Over the next day, the situation escalated rapidly. The Council officially declared that any species joining the Free Trade Concordat would be expelled from Council membership and lose all trade privileges. It was an attempt to scare junior species into staying. It backfired spectacularly. Delegate Corrin issued a public statement. The Thalen Collective has suffered under Council exploitation for 43 years. We have paid dearly for membership that brought us nothing but hardship. Today we formally withdraw from the Galactic Council and join the Free Trade Concordat. We urge other species to do the same. Within 6 hours, 4 more species made similar announcements. The next day, 7 more followed. The Council was hemorrhaging members. Jake watched it all from the Endeavor's command center. It's really happening, he said to his team. We're watching 300 years of history unravel in real time. Sir, incoming transmission, Ryan announced. It's from the Narian Republic. They're one of the undecided species. The Narine representative appeared on screen. They looked like a bipedal reptile with feathers instead of scales. Ambassador Morrison, I am Speaker Vex. My government has been watching events carefully. We need to show you something. The screen changed to display what looked like surveillance footage. It showed a meeting room where several council senior species representatives sat around a table. Elder Thorn was speaking. We cannot allow this rebellion to continue, the Vortanic leader was saying. The humans must be made an example. I propose we send a fleet to their home system. Not to destroy Earth, but to blockade it. Cut off their colonies. Show them what happens when species defy the council. That could trigger a war, another senior species representative objected. A brief war, Elder Thorn replied. The humans have been in space for 15 years. They have no significant military. We crush them quickly. The junior species see that rebellion leads to destruction, and order is restored. The footage ended. Speaker Vex reappeared. This recording is 3 hours old. My government obtained it through our intelligence network. We thought you should know what you faced. Jake felt cold. How long do we have? The council senior members are voting now on whether to authorize military action, Speaker Vex replied. The vote will likely pass. You have perhaps 2 days before ships are dispatched to your home system. Why are you telling us this? Lisa asked. Because my people know oppression when we see it, Speaker Vex said. The Narian Republic was conquered and occupied for 2 generations before we gained independence. We rebuilt slowly, and when the council invited us to join, we thought it meant we were equals. Instead, we found a different kind of occupation. Softer, but still chains. You offered freedom. We will not watch you be destroyed for that. The Narine Republic wishes to join the Free Trade Concordat? Jake asked. We wish to do more, Speaker Vex replied. We wish to defend it. My government is dispatching 12 warships to Earth's solar system. They will arrive before the Council fleet. We will not let humanity face this threat alone. Jake was speechless for a moment. Speaker Vex, we can't ask you to risk war for us. You did not ask. We chose. Just as you chose to stand up for what is right. The Naran representative's feathers ruffled in what their species used as a gesture of determination. Besides, we will not be alone. I have been in contact with other species. Many are willing to send ships. The Council wants to make an example of you. Instead, we will make an example of them. We will show that species standing together for fairness are stronger than any hierarchy. After the call ended, Jake sat down heavily. This is getting out of control, is it? Megan asked. Or is this exactly what needed to happen? The Council maintained power through fear. Now species are realizing they don't have to be afraid anymore. Not if they stand together. Ryan was already working. I'm contacting Earth Command. They need to know what's coming and prepare defenses. Lisa looked worried. Even with help from the Narian and others, if this becomes a full war, millions could die. I know, Jake said quietly. He thought about all the humans on Earth and the colonies, going about their lives not knowing that their ambassador's decisions might have just put them in terrible danger. But backing down now doesn't save them. It just delays the inevitable. The Council would keep expanding, keep exploiting. Eventually they would come for Earth anyway. So what do we do? Lisa asked. Jake stood up, his decision made. We fight. Not with weapons if we can avoid it, but with truth. Ryan, I need you to compile every piece of evidence we have about Council corruption. Everything. Lisa, I need detailed economic analysis, showing exactly how much the senior species have stolen from junior members over the years. Megan, I need you to draft a statement we can send to every species in known space, Council member or not. What kind of statement? Megan asked. The truth, Jake replied. We're going to tell everyone what the Council. The neutral station where they gathered was nothing like the Grand Council facility. It was an old trading post near the edge of explored space, built by independent merchants centuries ago. The halls were narrow, the lighting inconsistent, and there were no ornate seats or grand chambers. But it was neutral ground, claimed by no government or alliance, which made it perfect. Jake stood in the main conference room, watching as representatives from 28 different species arrived. Some came in ships bearing their government flags. Others arrived quietly, still afraid of retaliation from Council loyalists. Each one represented a species that had chosen freedom over security, fairness over tradition. This is remarkable, Lisa said, standing beside him. She held her tablet recording everything. 28 founding members. That's more than half the Council's junior species, plus 6 independent species that never joined. Megan was greeting delegates as they arrived, making sure everyone felt welcome. She had a gift for reading body language, even alien body language. "We need to make sure this works," she told Jake during a quiet moment. "If the Concordat fails, these species have nowhere to go. They've burned their bridges with the Council." "I know," Jake replied. The weight of responsibility sat heavy on him. These species were trusting humanity, trusting him to build something better. If he failed them, the consequences would be catastrophic. High Merchant Zaxthor approached, his massive Krell body moving gracefully despite its size. "Ambassador Morrison." The delegates are assembled. It is time to begin. The conference room filled quickly. Species of every type crowded together. Water breathers in special environmental suits stood beside silicon-based life forms that glowed with internal heat. Flying species hovered near the ceiling while burrowers settled on the floor. It was chaotic and beautiful and completely unlike the rigid hierarchy of the Council. Jake moved to the center of the room. Someone had set up a simple podium, but he chose not to use it. He wanted this to feel like a conversation, not a speech. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "We're here because each of us believes that the galaxy can be better. That species can work together as equals, not as masters and servants. That fairness is not weakness but strength." Delegate Corin's water form rippled. "We are here because you showed us it was possible. You stood up to power when everyone expected you to submit. You offered us hope. Humanity just did what felt right," Jake replied. "But we can't do this alone. The Free Trade Concordat isn't a human organization. It belongs to all of us equally. So before we begin formal proceedings, I want to hear from you. What do you need from this alliance? What are you afraid of? What do you hope for?" For the next 3 hours, delegates spoke. They shared stories of exploitation and broken promises. They talked about resources stolen and technology suppressed. They spoke of children who grew up believing their species was inferior, because that's what the Council taught them. Speaker Vex of the Narine Republic stood. Their feathers were ruffled with emotion. "For 2 generations, my people were slaves. When we freed ourselves, we thought we would never bow to anyone again. But the Council found subtler chains. They made us dependent on their trade routes, their technology, their approval. Your Concordat offers us true independence. But we must be careful not to recreate what we are trying to escape." "What do you suggest?" Jake asked. "No permanent leadership," Speaker Vex said. "The Council failed because power concentrated at the top. Our alliance should rotate leadership. Every species gets a turn to guide us, from the largest to the smallest. A small alien that looked like a floating jellyfish pulsed with bioluminescence." Its voice came through a translator. "I am Representative Lin of the Kix Commonwealth. My species is small, barely 5 million individuals across 3 colonies. In the Council, we had no voice. The senior species did not even learn our names. Will we have voice here? Every species has equal voice," Jake promised. "Size doesn't matter. Economic power doesn't matter. We all vote equally on all decisions." "What about military matters?" asked a delegate from the Yalith Communion. They resembled a crystalline tree, beautiful but alien. "The Council maintains power through force. How will we protect ourselves without becoming like them?" Ryan stepped forward to address this. "We propose a defense pact, not a standing army. Each member maintains their own military. If any member is attacked, all members respond, but no single species can use Concordat forces for aggression."
"Defense only," Lisa added her thoughts.
"And we share technology openly. The Council hoarded knowledge to maintain power. We do the opposite. Every advancement, every discovery belongs to all of us. Rising tides lift all boats." The discussions continued for hours. They debated economics, security, trade regulations, dispute resolution, and dozens of other topics. Sometimes they disagreed, sometimes loudly, but they talked as equals, and that made all the difference. Finally, as the station's artificial day cycle moved toward evening, Jake called for a formal vote. "We've discussed the principles and structure of the Free Trade Concordat. Each species must now decide, do you commit to this alliance? Remember, this is a real commitment. The Council will not welcome you back if you change your minds." One by one, the species voted. Each time a delegate stood and said, "We commit," Jake felt the weight of history shifting. This was actually happening. They were creating something new, something that had never existed before in known galactic history. All 28 species voted yes. The Concordat was official. Celebrations broke out immediately. Different species celebrated in different ways, creating a symphony of sounds and movements and lights. Jake found himself surrounded by delegates wanting to thank him, to shake his hand or touch his shoulder or perform whatever gesture their species used to show respect and gratitude. Through the crowd, he saw his team. Ryan was talking security protocols with the Narration military representatives. Lisa was deep in discussion with scientists from 6 different species about shared research initiatives. Megan was crying happy tears as she helped translate between species that were meeting for the first time. High Merchant Zaxthor found Jake in the chaos. "You have done something remarkable, human. You have changed the galaxy in less than 2 weeks. We all did it together," Jake corrected. "Perhaps," Zaxthor said, "but you started it. You refused to accept that things had to stay as they always were. That is the most human thing I have witnessed." The celebration lasted well into the night, but even as Jake celebrated, part of his mind was on the Galactic Council. What were they doing right now? How would they respond to this? The answer came the next morning. Jake woke to urgent messages on his communication device. The Council had issued a formal statement. He read it with his team gathered around. The Galactic Council recognizes that recent events have revealed flaws in our systems. The statement began. "We acknowledge that junior species have not always received fair treatment. In light of this, the Council is implementing immediate reforms." The reforms were listed: economic reviews of all trade agreements, new voting procedures that gave junior species more power, oversight committees to prevent exploitation, and open communication channels for grievances. "They're trying to save themselves," Megan observed. "Will it work?" Lisa asked. Jake thought about it. "For some species, maybe. Some will stay in the Council and try to make the reforms real. Others will see it as too little, too late." The galaxy just got more complicated. Over the following weeks, the situation continued to evolve. The Galactic Council did implement some reforms, and a few species that had considered joining the Concordat decided to give the Council another chance. But the damage to the Council's credibility was permanent. They were no longer the only option, and everyone knew it. The Free Trade Concordat grew. 3 more species joined in the first month, then 5 more. Trade routes opened that had never existed before. Technology sharing led to rapid innovations. Species that had barely communicated before were now working on joint projects. And everywhere the story spread. Humanity, the young species that had been in space for barely 15 years, had walked into the galaxy's most powerful institution and refused to be intimidated. They had exposed corruption, prevented war, and built an alternative alliance based on fairness. The story became legend, told across 1,000 worlds in 1,000 different languages. Jake and his team finally returned to Earth 3 months after they had left. They landed to celebrations and awards. Earth's government wanted to make them heroes. News networks wanted interviews. Everyone wanted to hear about how they had changed galactic history. But Jake felt strange about the attention. "We didn't do this alone," he told the reporters. 28 species worked together to build the Concordat. Hundreds of individuals risked their careers and safety to expose the truth. Billions of beings across the galaxy demanded change. We were just the spark. The fire belonged to everyone. In a private meeting with Earth's leadership, Jake gave his full report. He held nothing back, explaining both the victories and the risks. "The Council still exists," he warned. "They're weakened but not destroyed. Some senior species are adapting, accepting that the galaxy has changed. Others are resentful and dangerous. We need to stay alert,